Hey, this is Brent Leary, and once again, I have so many great opportunities to talk to people that are doing interesting things and covering topics that are really important. And here's another conversation like that as I speak with Keala Gaines, who is the head of global payments for eBay. So, Keala, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So, we're still in this pandemic, and it's caused a lot of challenges, and particularly when it comes to small and mid-sized businesses. But you talk about global payments. What's been any kind of impact, good, bad, other, when it comes to global payments, particularly from an SMB perspective?
Yeah, well, one of the things that eBay has long enabled, and I think one of really the strengths of the platform is the ability for small businesses. You could be anything from an individual all the way up to an enterprise, but really, the technology and the platform makes it really easy for a small business to get their inventory up online. And what the strength that eBay brings is buyers around the globe and the opportunity for cross-border trade. So when we think about payments from a global perspective, a small business in the US really shouldn't have to think about what's the preferred way for a buyer in Germany to pay. And should know that the platform that they're selling on is one that is thinking about that on their behalf and thinking about how do we optimize conversion and make sure that we have the most relevant ways for a buyer to pay no matter where they are in the world. And so, for me, that's really the convergence of sort of eBay as an SMB platform and the role that the global payments should play in enabling commerce and being frictionless.
When you think about the kind of the customer experience when it comes to paying for things and paying digitally, sometimes if I don't see the right offering for the kind of payment I want to make, I walk away.
Mhm. Mhm.
When as we see more and more of our shopping transactions taking place online, how much of the customer experience is that payment portion?
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is certainly we see an emergence of new ways to pay, even in an online transaction, as online and mobile also start to converge and those lines blur increasingly now more than ever when, as consumers, we sort of expect that pervasive checkout experience, whether I was looking for it on my phone and put it in my cart and then went online and completed the transaction, right? That it followed me, and that those forms of payment were all of a sudden device relevant, so that the way that I shop when I'm on my laptop might be, via whatever stored in my Chrome browser via Google Pay. It may be that I use an Apple device, and then when I'm shopping on mobile, it's via Apple Pay or credit card. And again, if you're a buyer anywhere else in the globe, there's other forms of payment that might be more relevant for you. In Germany, which I mentioned, they use secure direct debits quite a bit. In Asia, we're seeing the emergence, of course, of a lot of the wallets, the WeChat Pay, and things of that nature, right? So I think it's really about enabling those buyers to shop however they need, and the channels and the modalities are changing, and we're seeing that at the point of sale now too. With of course with the pandemic, folks are adopting NFC and contactless, certainly at higher rates, and we're seeing that as well, right? All of us in our everyday lives.
Yeah, I was thinking about you mentioned different kind of devices, and as an example for me personally, I buy a lot of stuff from Panera Bread. Sometimes when I'm sitting at home, I'll just get on a laptop and I'll buy it, and I notice the payment options are different on the laptop than if I
Mm-hmm.
use their app. Is
Mm-hmm.
it, how important is it to have the right, the right payment for the right device, particularly from a small business perspective, as you try to cut down friction and you try to make sure that you finish that transaction? How important is it that, oh, if it's this device, we should offer this, or if it's this device, we should offer that? How does that work?
Yeah. Well, it's hugely important, although I will say mobile browsing has gotten leaps and bounds better than we may all remember it in the early days. But, trying to enter a 16-digit credit card number into a mobile phone, which at the time was not mobile optimized, as we all remember, was not for the faint of heart, and fat fingering, as we call it, was quite common. And so I really think it has been with the emergence of mobile that we have seen the proliferation and the increase in popularity of wallets. Things like PayPal was very early in its mobile sort of applications, and having a way to transact quite easily with a login name and a password, which oddly enough is easier than entering 16 digits. And then Apple Pay and Google Pay come along, and so I think the form factor, as it evolves, is really quite relevant. At the same time, many of us probably wouldn't make, I don't know, a $20,000 purchase via a wire transfer on our cell phones. I mean, you might, but it's a little harder. And so I think also the how easy and how frictionless a form of payment will enable something to be also determines the form factors, that it sort of um, gains popularity or adoption in.
No, and I was also thinking in terms of when I pay for things with the phone, kind of have the biometrics because it does the eye scan, and
Mhm.
where does like the security aspect from these digital payments? How is that something that provides some kind of an advantage or some kind of a
Mhm.
another way to make sure that that transaction goes through?
Well, I am not probably the best person to give the technical nuances, but at a high level, I will say that they actually can be more secure in some ways because the information is actually tokenized. So, and this from probably the CRM systems that you work with, the actual card data itself. So the instrument, the credit card, whatever, debit card, whatever you used that was inside of that mobile wallet is not actually what is transmitted and stored with the merchant. What is transmitted and stored is a tokenized, representation of that card number that the merchant can still settle and get paid against. But it isn't. Your card number isn't being put out into the ether for or stored anywhere for someone to compromise.
And I'm guessing also it just makes it so much easier to once that transaction takes place, it like you were saying with CRM, you could actually that transaction gets routed into a system and you don't have to kind of do all this manual stuff anymore with this.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, we do definitely see a lot of users want to store their information for repeat purchase, which can make, I myself do it quite a bit. It can make the purchasing experience almost too easy. Like I hit the button and, and the transaction's
Should I
gone.
have done that?
Like, oh wait, I did I want to actually hit buy or add to cart? It can be so fast and so easy with those stored instruments. It's great, but that's also the thing that makes it super easy at the grocery store now to just kind of pull out your phone and click it and not touch anything. So I think
Right.
it is all about how do we as merchants adopt the technology that is relevant to the device, the use case, and making sure that we're giving consumers those options so that if they want to use them, they can.
I'm assuming too, as a like looking at it from the business side of the house, just being able to capture this information and I would assume it makes it a little bit more usable because once you've got it and it kind of if you have it integrated into some kind of a CRM application, then you can begin, running reports to see, who's buying what's kind of what usually sells with this, and so you can kind of feed that lead in real time. So, oh, you're buying this? Well, you might want to buy this too, and that's kind of coming through because you're capturing all that.
Yeah, I might take it from like it's obviously eBay's at an interesting point in its history with the management of payments, and we do get questions as to why now, why is it important, and beyond the more ways for buyers to pay around the globe and enabling SMBs with that. It does enable us to have a more holistic view of a transaction. So if you think about the interactions that we're enabling. And prior, when we weren't managing the payment, we were really cobbling together sort of a view of the transaction data from someone else, plus our view of the buyer history and the seller history, and trying to, marry that all together. So with a full view of the transaction in our system, we can actually much better innovate on top of that and make sure that we're serving up the right experiences, whether that's just a receipt or inside the reporting applications for our sellers, really marrying that data together and providing a holistic view all the way down to making sure that we just have a better view of who is transacting on our platform, and sort of raising the waterline for everybody to make sure it's a trusted place to shop and sell.
Hmm. Have you seen any kind of surprising developments as we've kind of gone through this? I think we're in the 6th month of kind of being shut down at this point. You know, has there been any surprises? Have you seen anything that's like, hmm, I didn't expect that to happen? As people have been
Yeah.
shopping more online and using these kind of payment programs.
Well, I guess like everyone, initially it was a bit of a shock to the system, right? We saw everything sort of shut down, and then what's been really interesting is seeing how behaviors have changed as we come into this longer, right? So, no surprise, we're seeing a proliferation of people who need to now set up a work from home space, and you need a monitor, and you need a desk, and things that you didn't have to have before, and you need to fix up your house because you're in it more and you're tired of looking at those four same walls, or the home gym equipment. So the types of things that people are buying, while they mirror what we would have bought before, it's been really interesting, I think, to kind of look at them through a containment lens, if you will. So that's been interesting, and the way the buyers shop, which we touched on briefly. The adoption, the number of people that I personally see when I go to the grocery store that before probably would not have been whipping out their phones to pay for their groceries or that cup of coffee or what have you at McDonald's, are now using their mobile devices to shop. And, that how much of that behavior becomes then a catalyst for changed behavior that translates to the next time you go to shop online from your phone, and mobilely. And we are seeing that when given the option to pay with new ways, new forms of payment, that buyers are adopting at higher rates than they were before.
And then they have this whole kind of thing that has accelerated due to the pandemic with cashless. Nobody wants to
Mhm.
take the cash. I don't have a lot of cash on me because I don't want to be giving it out to people. What about this technology that allows you to just kind of walk in the store and you pick up something and you just keep it and then you walk out of the store and it totally has all your stuff added up and charged
And
your
ready to
account.
go. Ready to go. Well, there's obviously way more systems at play there than just payments. Whether however the inventory is tagged and the devices at the door and the cameras and all that stuff, it really is mind-boggling. But just as in e-commerce as a whole, I mean, enabling the financial part of that transaction at the right time in the right modality, which is triggering it as you walk out the door, I would assume, and not before. Right. And this notion that you may have an instrument on file that is stored to your profile that enables that really frictionless experience to happen. So I think about payments as being a huge enabler for new and emergent technologies. And while we haven't seen that one as pervasive yet, I think we've seen hints that it's coming, and I won't be surprised when we see more of it.
I've been in one of those stores once, and I was like, "This is great! I don't have to wait in the line. Oh, this is great!" So So I'll be interested to see if this kind of accelerates the adoption of those kinds of things.
Yeah, we're
Um,
stepping our way there.
yeah. So what are the changes that have taken place because of what's going on right now? Do you think are going to be permanent changes?
I definitely am not a prophet to be able to tell that. I think many of us are in react mode and just trying to make sure that we're I think for those of us and those industries that are hurting right now, that we're finding ways to adapt and help, and for categories and certain industries that are actually doing quite well, that they're able to equally respond to the increase in whether that's inventory, sourcing inventory, capital, et cetera. So I think it's really just about trying to be prepared to react as the world continues to throw us surprises. So I don't have any prophecies on permanence. But I do believe that as we build muscle memory for new ways to pay, that those will translate over time into our everyday lives more.
Well, it'd be great if you were Moses or something like that, but I totally understand that. I know I'm not good at that either. Well, talk a little bit about kind of what happens after the pandemic. What are some of the things that I'm not no predictions, but what are some of the things do you think are going to be important for businesses? Let's say take it a couple of ways. Kind of the more established businesses that are brick and mortar, and folks who are just pure online sellers. What are some of the things that they should kind of be aware of as we move past the pandemic?
You know, eBay is continued to focus on sort of our core and what differentiates us, which we talked about early on around being a platform that enables small business, but really businesses of all sizes, to come to sell easily, to have their unique inventory reach the right buyer at the right time, wherever that is around the globe, and to break down barriers really in doing so, and to create economic opportunity for people. So we are as focused on that now as we will be in the future. COVID hasn't changed that. As I think about, how, as you look backward, might this have been a moment of catalyst of change? And we talked about forms of payment, but we're also seeing, businesses that haven't traditionally been online, realizing that rapidly they need an online presence. That convergence between online and mobile. Likewise, we're seeing that convergence between online and in-store, right? The buy online, pick up in store, buy online, curbside pickup. And so, the multi-channel, omni-channel, being able to serve the customer across those different modalities and technologies, whether it's mobile and it starts in the house and then it ends in store on a pickup, that actually now there isn't even a device involved. There's just an authentication of your order number or what have you. So, I think that we may look back at this as a catalyst for driving even more digital transformation. We were headed that way anyway, but it has made it quite clear how much when we are all at home, that when you have those channels still available to you, how much value they can deliver.
Yeah, I totally agree. Digital transformation seems to have been accelerated for a number of different kinds of businesses because, you know, if you can't get to the market, you got to order groceries online. I mean,
Right.
or if you can't go into the store, well, the store's got to come out to us. I mean, so these kinds of things have definitely changed behaviors, and it seems to me if you aren't addressing these right now, you might not be in business for as long as you had hoped for at this point.
Yeah. Right.
Where can people learn more about what you guys are doing in this area and how you're helping, the sellers kind of deal with all these changes?
Yeah, it's really, like I said, about sort of continuing to focus on our core, on enabling the platform to be a really easy place to come and get started, but also a place that you can grow. And we have sellers of all sizes on the eBay platform. Anything from an individual who's just using eBay to sell to a large enterprise for which eBay might be one of multiple channels, and they might be using different software applications to connect it all. Making sure that we are thinking about those different types of segments and building for all of them, right? We have to, we're not one size fits all, and having to make sure that we build for the small customer who may be just starting out, who might just be new to the digital transformation, all the way to an enterprise who's savvy, who's been doing it for a long time, that is maybe multi-channel, and the way that they sell is even changing with pickup in store and buy online, right? So I think we're hard at work making sure that our platform is flexible to serve the different types of seller needs around the globe, that we are thinking ahead about how buyer behaviors are shifting and making sure that we can offer the most frictionless, relevant ways for buyers to pay, and trying to make sure that we're delivering value.
Nice. And I would assume if you're a new business or a business who's been around but wants to expand their opportunity, their reach to get to new markets, a platform like yours will actually allow them to do that with as little of their manual innovation as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah, we really, I'm not a merchant, but I use my phone. I use the eBay app, and it's I wind up showing it to people all the time. It's incredibly easy to start a listing, take a picture with your phone, and list it. And then if I choose to have it shipped internationally, now that is surfaced to buyers around the globe on various eBay sites. So it really can be that easy. And when we think about trying to make sure that sellers, SMBs particularly, now have access to technology that can really expand their footprint. Maybe they've traditionally only sold in their domestic market, the city that they're in, the state that they're in. Now we can cross borders into different states really quite easily, but even into other countries.
Kiala, this has been really interesting, and I appreciate you taking time to kind of help me understand some of this stuff, because there's a lot of things going on here, and it's been great talking with you. And it's really amazing because as we are getting ready to end this, and I'm gonna stop the recording, your picture just got so much better just like within the last couple of minutes. I hope Gabby and Carly are seeing this, because I was like, isn't this something? Like the last 2 minutes, it got really clear. And I was like, okay, well, at least, I mean, everything sounded good, but those last 2 minutes, it was like, wow,
That's
it
funny.
just really got good. But that's
Well,
okay.
like
We got a lot of
everyone,
good.
work from home landscape. I think my husband was also on a Zoom call in the other room, so it likely just ended.
That's it. It's probably over now. I could probably
Yeah.
pinpoint exactly when that ended. No, this has been great. I really appreciate you taking the time to share that with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. So I'm going to end the broadcast.